Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Renovation and Outdoor Living Show. Sorry, we're a minute late or so. Anyway, good to see you. We just thought we'd give you plenty of time to tune in. I think everyone's been busy watching the latest update from our Ministry of Health about COVID here in New Zealand. Anyway, really good to see you. Of course, yeah, we're still in level 3 in Auckland. I got told off for going to the beach at the weekend. No chance of that, though, for the next few days. Rain and thunder in the forecast. Not looking that flash for the rest of New Zealand either. Maybe a wee bit drier in Christchurch. Now, talking of rain, something I learned today. This is something you can use as you're planning a bit of outdoor renovation. Auckland Council has scrapped the resource consent fees for installation of rainwater tanks at residential properties. Makes sense. They want us to start storing our own because they haven't built the infrastructure to store it for us. Building consent also not required for work under $5,000. So it's just become a lot cheaper and easier to put your own water tank in. There you go. Now, Tuesday, a quick recap. Well, it was an international show if you were watching, and the theme was what makes a creative space. So we started off talking to Tony Bean, who was in he was in Sydney, I think. Now, he's the Australian-New Zealand Managing Director of House, which is a global website and online community all about, they cover off architecture, interior design, decorating, landscape design, home improvement, etc., etc. So it's exactly the sort of website which is really useful for us as a community to tune into, to have a look at for ideas and then to try and apply them with our various renovation teams. So Tony was telling us about how we've been adapting to the spaces in our homes to meet the new needs. We've talked about this a lot. Some of those new needs due to COVID, like your work from home spaces, adapting your dining room into a working space during the day, etc. Other ideas, though, are more long-term. So when COVID's been and gone, this is about designing homes to accommodate exercising, to improving energy efficiency and sustainability, even going so far as using colors that we now know can calm us. So all about adapting the spaces, the creative spaces around us. So from Australia, we then shot over to the UK, where we spoke to Kelly Melcher, who we've spoken to a couple of times on the show. She runs renovations, Refresh Renovations in Surrey, which is the commuter belt just outside London. And she talked about the ultimate in creative spaces, which is, of course, the wine cellar. And it's incredible what some of her clients are wanting to do with their old cellars and underground rooms, which, of course, you get a lot in the UK, and they don't really serve a purpose anymore. But we also then looked at ways we could integrate wine storage systems into the more modern homes, our homes on this side of the world, and in the US, and what we have to consider when storing wine as well. That's if you don't drink it as soon as you get it. So if you're interested in either of those topics, look back on Facebook or on YouTube at our channel to last Friday's show. Now, before we get to today's theme, a reminder, we're going to be giving away 5 veggie bags later. If you don't know what they are, then you probably haven't entered. And if you'd like to know what they are, then wait on and have a look, or you can watch an episode from about 2 weeks ago. Watch them all and you'll find out what I'm talking about. So to today. Well, when did you last see a garage that was actually used just to keep a car in? And it's always a joke in our family. I don't think I've put a car in my garage for 20 years. Because in this day and age, when space is at such a premium, the garage, it's basically the most versatile room in the house. It can become your gym, your rumpus. It can be the storeroom. It can be the man cave. And in my house, just a general rubbish tip. And this is where this company called Pimp My Garage comes in. It's New Zealand's only personalised design, supply and installation service that helps homeowners transform their garage. Jeremy Davis is one of the co-owners, and he joins us now. Jeremy, this is good to see you. I hope you're well. This is just an incredible, great idea for a business. Was this a case of you getting sick of your own environment, the dumping ground, and deciding I've got to do something about it? And why is no one doing it?
Yeah, well, thanks, Rod, and thanks for having us on the show today. Yeah, look, you hit the nail on the head. Pimp My Garage was basically stemmed out of my own personal pain at home. It's often a story we recount when I'm talking to a lot of customers because they totally get it. My garage, standard 36 square metre garage, had really become by default a pseudo rumpus room for the kids. And anytime the adults wanted adult time, friends and family over, we would sort of haul them all in there. But it was just a bit of a catastrophe. As you said before, no car in there, a little bit like your own, and that's a fairly common comment we get from customers. And in there were things like my surfboards, and there was golf clubs and all manner of items. And to be honest with you, it was probably quite dangerous. And so I thought, look, we've got to do something about this. This is going back about 5 years. We've got to get this sorted out, and surely there's somebody that can pull together everything I need to turn this into a dedicated rumpus room for the kids. So Along to the home show we went, and I saw a variety of different products, including the one behind me, the Gladiator wall storage solution. Variety of different exhibitors there had a little bit of what I needed, but there wasn't anyone that could pull it all together. And out of that was, stemmed the idea of Pimp My Garage. So very much personal need.
Because you will have then done your talking to your network and then finding out, hold on, there is a need here. I'm not the only one who's looking for someone else who can actually come in and do this for me, rather than go out and buy a couple of robust looking wardrobes or something. So when you did start talking to people, what were the main customer issues? I mean, even now, what do people come to you and say, this is what we need you to do?
Well, 9 times out of 10, it was quite interesting. As they put the garage door up, they tend to hide behind their hands, expecting that we've never seen anything worse. And in some cases, it's sometimes hard to see the back. So at the back of the garage, that is, of course, we always tell them we've seen worse. But the reality is, for most people, it's just clearing that space out. Well, I guess, to be honest, there's 2 distinctively different kinds of customers. One that want to clear the space out, get stuff off the floor and put away so they can better utilize the space. And then you've got the customer that's actually looking at the space going, look, we're not recognizing the true potential, similar to what my situation was. And they're going, look, we want to do a garage transformation. And that can be, of course, into just about anything, as you've got pictured there. I mean, they wanted to turn these into a breakout room for the kids, which is quite a common brief for us. Again, home gyms on the back of lockdown, there's a lot of people looking at this space going, it's underutilized. And as we yo-yo between, lockdown, they're looking at it and going, this is a project, I need to get it sorted out, or this is an opportunity to transform the space into a gym, as you can see pictured there, or a home office, or a mix of the two, in the sense that we can put a partitioning system very simply down the middle of a garage. You can put a car on one side and a home gym or an office on the other, or a home gym on one side and office on the other. It's tailored to what people's needs are. It's
a good idea. I hadn't even thought about that. You can actually start segregating areas off for different uses. How often do you get that? Do you also get, so people come to you and they sort of say, okay, we need the extra room. That's obviously a very common one. We can't get the car in there. We need it all tidied up. How often do you also get because people forget that many times, more times out of 10, it's the first thing you see when you come onto the property, and people are saying simply, look, it's a disgrace. It's devaluing my home. Do people go as far as that? And they're looking at it for an investment.
I think for a lot of people, they don't actually realise that, over 50% of New Zealand homes have the garage, on the front of the property. And so unfortunately for a lot of people, and hence the reason for getting in touch with Pimp My Garage, it's the last thing they see when they leave to go to work or leave the property full stop, but it's the first thing they see when they come home. And for a lot of people, it's an eyesore. And of course, a lot of people access the house, visitors, guests, when they're coming around, they come through the garage. So for some people, it's a constant form of embarrassment. We see a lot of DIY, a lot of trip down to building supply companies and a little bit of wall system here and some sort of MDF cabinets, here and there. But it doesn't really have any sort of strategic plan around it, because they've never really looked at it and gone, well, what can I achieve? And quite clearly, when we go to see people, they generally give us a verbal brief while we're there as to what it is they're trying to achieve, what their pain is, what their goals are. And of course, it's just a matter of us then responding.
So before we talk about it, because I wanted to ask you about the cabinetry, because I know you mentioned the Gorilla range behind you there, but you've also now just hinted at what you offer. It's not a case of selling a few cabinets. You're offering a whole service. You just mentioned the fact that you go round. So tell us exactly what you do.
Yeah, so we scope the garage, or as we say to our customers, we try to make it a very personalised service, and every garage has an identity. So, and everybody's needs are slightly different. So, it is very much tailored. So, we organise a suitable time to pop round and see them, and then it's a matter of, first of all, just listening, find out what it is they're trying to achieve, and people generally have a fairly good idea. We then take laser measurements using a Bosch app and our iPad. We are able to take full and accurate measurements of the garage. And then it's very much a matter of just coming back to the office and utilising those measurements to develop a design and quote. So we figure it out fairly early in the piece that a lot of people, they understand the way a bathroom or a kitchen will look, but because this whole garage transformation and storage solution is a very new area, a new category, people don't generally necessarily have an idea of what it might cost them or what it's going to look like. So we started using 3D fly-through designs to scale based on the measurements that we take. And then we go back with a quote, and as you can see there, this is a fairly standard, 3D design for us. What we found is that interestingly, female, that the women are very good at visualizing how things will look, and men aren't. And the flip side of that is that men have an idea of basically how everything's going to fit, but women don't. So you've got this visually versus spatially challenge going on, and often sometimes a fair amount of marriage guidance counselling goes hand in hand with our role that we don't charge for, but we find the 3D design really helps for the customer to get an idea of what we're proposing, and it really is a great sales tool for us as well too. And then with that, of course, we do a fixed price quote for our customers.
Yeah, and then of course, you also provide a lot of these storage solutions, because see, I'm the classic in that I decided I'd tidy up some of the garage, went on Trade Me, bought myself a couple of MDF wardrobe flat packs, chucked them in the garage, and they will be thrown away probably after about 4 years, I guess, when they've eventually complete, and they don't look any good anyway. So this is what I'm interested in, because this sort of came hand in hand with, as you came up with the idea of Pimp My Garage, you also decided on what's the good stuff to put in there.
Yeah, that was crucial, getting a supply chain. And as it is with any startup, and we spent the first 6 months just figuring out whether it was viable, talking to family and friends and mates and going, hey, what's your garage like? Would this be a service that would be a benefit to you? So having come from a corporate background in the marketing field, my business partner and I, about 60 years between the two of us, we knew really how to go through the process of putting together a business plan and launching that, which was hugely beneficial. But what was crucial was having a really good supply chain. So we would have spent probably the first 6 months to a year, in fact, it's ongoing, sourcing, the very best product for the garage environments. Can't just go in, and as you've seen, Royden, with the MDF cabinets that you got, they just don't last. They're not really designed in an environment which, it's not like the rest of the house. It's quite a harsh environment in a lot of cases. So one of the key products that we went to, and you can see it behind me, or that we sourced, was Gladiator, which is an American designed product made by a huge American whiteware company called Whirlpool, who do a lot of whiteware products. And they basically, their customers came to them and said, look, we're moving a lot of our old whiteware fridges and so on and so forth into the garage. It becomes a bare fridge, bake fridge sort of scenario. But what we've identified is that there's this massive amount of clutter in the garage that we need to get sorted. So could Whirlpool do something about it? So they got their smart heads together, their innovative team, and hence that was the launch of Gladiator, which is an integrated wall storage solution and cabinetry and workbenches. They've just got a solution for absolutely everything. So it's a PVC tongue and groove board. It's 8 foot long because it's an American system, so basically 2.4 meters. And we just sort of build it together and we fix it to studs or concrete. You can hang 244 kgs over a square meter. You can hang the cabinets off it, as you've seen in some of those images. So that, for us, has become a fantastic cornerstone product, which we install on probably 90% of all jobs for just getting stuff off the floor and onto the wall where it's visible so people can see it. Or if they don't want to grab it, like you can see in those images, your line trimmer, your brooms, your rakes, things you want to be able to grab quickly. They don't want to be able to see it. They put things away in cabinets, camping gear, Christmas trees, that sort of stuff, which is seasonal, that they don't want to necessarily get their hands on or see the whole time, can go into a cabinet. So the Gladiator system is, absolutely fantastic. And they continue to innovate and add to it, and we love working with it.
And it's smart as well. It's really, although I must say, I'm disappointed to see there are no longer any silhouettes of saws and chisels on the wall, because that's what I associate with a real man cave. And very quickly, Jeremy, I want to ask you about cost, because it's a no-brainer to do this, but with style and with something which lasts, there must be a cost.
Yeah, there is. Well, everything, there's cost associated with everything you're obviously going to do as far as any form of home renovation is concerned. The nice thing is that this is tailored to your needs, so it's exactly what you are after. And what we find is that people are generally pleasantly surprised. Again, coming back to the kitchen bathroom scenario, they've got an idea of what kitchens and bathrooms will cost, but we are well below that. So on average, I guess to answer the question, people will spend around about $7,000, I suppose, is an average for us, which would include cabinetry and your gear, your storage solution, bike racks and everything. But look, we've done garages from $1,000 to $100,000 as well. So it's tailored to your needs.
So it's what you need. But 7K would be a transformation of an average a garage, which isn't sort of falling apart. It's not silly money, and I reckon that this would, and this is me with my sort of real estate agency hat on a wee bit, is that would come back straight away on house value, on capital gain. So it's not. I mean, what would you spend on a wardrobe? A walk-in wardrobe, about the same. So
about the same, and you're sort of got 3 meters by 3 meters. You can spend that $7,000 on average, and you're going to sort out a storage solution for basically a 36 meter garage. So it's a good analogy, and of course you see the lights go on. What is very cost-effective spend, and we tell people as well, you are you're reinvesting in your greatest asset.
I'm going to have to, on a Friday show, I'm going to have to put up a photo of my garage because it's such a disgrace. And if anyone could sort that out for $7,000, they'd be earning their money. Now, bringing that up, though, you've got a promo for us, I'm told.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that.
Yeah, no, we have a spring promotion that we're running through, kicking off the start of September. Basically, it's the Strip My Garage Spring promo, as you can see there in the typeface. If you spend $5,000 pimping your garage in September, then we will strip your garage for free, which has a value of about $600. And that basically is assisting you to clear the garage out, which is a big stumbling block for people. So, make the most of that. And, we'd love to help you out, Royden.
Oh, mate, I've got so much more than $600 worth of time invested in you stripping and cleaning out my garage. It's like one of those shows, those problem shows on TV for people who have collect crap. I don't even know what they're called now, but it always frightens the life out of me. Hey, Jeremy, hoarders. That's it. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you so much for giving us some time here. Fascinating company. I hope we have plenty of viewers who take you up on your promo, and I might well consider it myself. $600, mate. You'd be here for a week. But good.
Love a challenge.
Thanks, Jeremy Davis there from Pimp My Garage. Great name for a company as well. So, and we'll talk to you again.
Thanks, Royden.
Awesome. God, that's just such a great solution to so many people. Now, we're going to give away our prize very shortly, but first of all, we often talk to Refresh renovations experts on this show, and we talk about anything and everything in the world of getting your renovation right without it costing you a fortune. So we thought it would be a good idea to talk to one of the people behind the brand, one of the founders and directors of Refresh Renovations. So we rang up Chris Cager. He's got over 30 years experience in marketing and business development. That's in the UK and New Zealand. Now, he's worked with some of the biggest names in building and renovation: Winstone, Wallboards, Fletcher Building, Jib Living Solutions. But in 2000, he set up Traffic. Now, this is a marketing services company. And then they used their expertise to launch Refresh Renovations, which was about 9 years ago. And now they've established themselves as the leading renovation company in New Zealand. They're also in every state in Australia. They've launched in the UK. World domination on the cards. But Chris, really good to see you. Thanks for giving us some time today, because there's no surprise. I just mentioned a couple of the brands who you used to work with. There's no surprise from your professional background that you ended up always looking maybe for a building-based business.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. Pretty much my whole working background has been in the building industry, as you say, in the UK and New Zealand. And Fletcher's is a great company for learning about the market, because it's what they call a classically vertically integrated company. And what that means is that they've got quarries, they've got manufacturers making building materials, Winstones being one that you mentioned. They've got distribution chains like placemakers selling building materials, electrical materials. They also do house construction. So they've got national house building companies, a number of different brands. And they have national and international commercial construction, doing hospitals and schools, And while I was there, I also got involved quite a bit in consumer advertising. So I've seen everything from digging it out of the ground all the way to installing it and helping homes and buildings.
Yeah.
So there's a great perspective.
So what's interesting though is that when you and the team at Refresh, when you sat down and you said, and you saw an opportunity, you obviously saw this the renovation end as the opportunity. So what were others not providing, or where were others going wrong that you could see that, hold on, you could actually shake this up a wee bit?
Yeah, well, it's fascinating. When you look at the structure of the market, you've got three broad segments. You've got the commercial construction segment, and that's made of large companies. That a lot of them are corporates, because commercial construction is all about managing capital and managing risk, and corporates are good at that. And they're very professional, and they do a massive amount of planning before they do any work. And they're fantastic at controlling costs and outcomes. They're fantastic, because if they get it wrong, they're toast. So they got very, very good at that. Residential construction, similar. You've got very large national, sometimes international companies. A lot of them are franchises, because franchising is a really good model in service-driven industries. But they're large companies, both commercial construction and residential construction. They're not run by tradesmen. They're run by qualified professional company managers, and they've got accounting teams, they've got marketing teams, they've got technical teams. And in both cases, the underlying philosophy that they have is that they do a huge amount of planning before they do any work, because they're controlling costs and they want to deliver a great customer experience. The renovation segment, on the other hand, is the opposite of all of those things. There are no national brands, quite weirdly. So in New Zealand, we'd be very familiar with companies like GJ Gardners and Genian, and there'd be household names. Everyone would know what they are, who they are. But a typical renovation company is a trade-based entity, and it's run by the tradesman. And that tradesman is trying to run his company, and he's trying to do the work. And so he's got two hats on.
Yeah,
Half his time's running the business, and half his time's on the tools. So what struck us is there's an opportunity to take those fantastic models they've got in the new home and construction market and apply them to the residential market, so that you can take out cost, you can take out risk, and you can give a better experience.
And leave the builders to do what they're bloody good at, which is
to build. Right. That's exactly right. Yeah, it doesn't replace them. It actually brings them into the business, and you're doing all that stuff that they hate doing, like the admin and the finance and the debt collection, and they get on with working on site.
So Chris, so you must start by, and I know we looked at this a wee while back in the show, by asking people what their biggest concerns are when they're looking at renovating, because from that point you can then work out what you need to offer. So what do people say to you?
Well, we have done some research, actually. We researched in the UK, in the US, in Australia and New Zealand, asking people exactly that question: what are your most common fears? And there's a sort of a wide range. There's the generalized fears about, am I going to get the quality of finish I was really expecting? Is it going to take too long? At the end of this huge exercise, am I going to get disappointed? And so on. So there's a range of things. But if you cluster them up, nearly all of them, about half of them, were around cost. So people were worried about starting on this process and then suddenly getting sideswiped by this thing that they'd never planned for. It suddenly came out and hit them. It was things like when you take something off the walls, what's going to happen? You're going to find something terrible. And then just more generally, can I really afford this? This is a massive thing I'm undertaking. Can I afford it?
It's quite a difficult thing to reassure them about, though, isn't it? I mean, because there would be a basis for their fears, wouldn't there? Judging on past experience, maybe.
Well, that's right. I mean, you can go through any number of dinner parties and you'll get the same kind of stories. But actually, Brands has done a lot of work in this area as well. And they surveyed about hundreds and hundreds of companies. And they surveyed builders across a range of different projects, both new and renovations. And they found that in the way that most renovations were conducted, people are right to be worried, because around 30% of the budget is wasted. And I was talking about there's two the new home and the commercial markets are run professionally. They're basically project-driven companies, are project management-driven companies. So there's two approaches to doing any building work. One is project management, and the other is tender-driven. And if we just go back to that slide again, what happens is that on a renovation project, what they're typically managed in a tender process. And what a tender process means is ultimately actually there's very poor communication, because you've communicated a lot with a draftsman or an architect, but they're not the guys doing the work. It's the tradesman 6 months down the road that you've never talked to that are doing the work. So communications is shot straight away. Then they have inadequate planning. There's no real project plan. And because there's no project plan, there is no real project management. So this is the sort of the results you typically get in a renovation. So a 100K project, $30,000 is probably wasted. Whereas if you did the project management approach, you plan up front, and you don't get this kind of an outcome.
So that makes me wonder what good planning, when you talk about planning, when you talk about project management, what does it actually entail?
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the problems is that people think design, because the design is often called a plan, that the design is the plan. Well, in fact, the design is only one small element of the plan. So you've got the design, and that is important. That gives, it's a visual. You want to know what is it going to look like. That design is also really important to tell all the sub-trades how to cost, how to quote. And quite often the design is inadequate to do that. But you've got to design. And the other two really critical elements that are usually missing in a renovation is early on, you need to get costs and schedules. So very early on, before you've invested too much time in detailed drawings or even started work, you need to start getting some indicative costs. And part of your brief, you're going to want not just what do I want to do, but when do I want to do it by? Because if you want it done by Christmas, it's really, that's going to affect the schedule. And you need to do that in your planning stage, and that's going to affect the amount of trades that you're going to need. So costs and schedules you should get early on. And the other massive thing that's usually missed is clear documentation. So, for example, the specification, that's the sort of level of quality that you're aiming for. And you want a 3-coat paint, or you want a 2-coat paint. Do you want concrete, or do you want MDF on your surfaces? And the cost per square meter can vary between $2,500 a square meter and $5,000 per square meter, and be absolutely normal. Both of those would be considered normal, and yet one is twice as expensive as the other. So, what was quoted? Is your tradesman, is your painter thinking he's in a high level, but the guy doing all the trims the low level? Well, you just wasted your painter's time and your money. But also, you need to know, all your contract documentations. What are the terms of trade? What are the payments trade schedules? What's the how are you going to manage variations? If that isn't tied down, if you have an issue during build, you've got no hope of sorting it out.
And you can just see how, when you go back to those initial thoughts of yours when you set up Refresh, how so many brilliantly talented tradespeople and amazing builders and chippies, this stuff just would be, oh, look, we'll just worry about that later. Let's just get on and get on. How it would all come unravel. Now, the trouble, though, is that putting that sort of a plan together is going to cost money. It's going to cost time. It's going to cost money. I imagine a lot of people, their first question to you will be, well, I don't want to pay. I want to pay for the building. I don't want to pay for whether I can afford it or whatever. So how do you get around that? I mean, what does it cost to get through all those steps?
Well, that's right. And of course, we've got a lot of information to go. We've looked at a lot of research. We've done years of research in the new home and the commercial market. Say, well, how much should you be spending on your design? And typically, rule of thumb, you should be spending about 10% plus or minus, maybe 15%, maybe a little bit less than 10 on the project plan. So if you've got a $100,000 budget, you're not saying I'm going to spend $100,000 on my building plus $10,000 on planning. Your 100,000 project means you should be spending 10,000 on planning and 90,000 on building. If you don't do that, the research from Brand says you're going to get the nasty little bar on the right, which says, you've cut you're only doing design. You're likely to end up spending $130,000, not 100,000. So The 10% isn't an additional 10%, it's part of your project cost. That's your total cost of doing that project.
And that's interesting because often some people say, this is what I want, now go away and cost it up for me and deliver it, and then it comes in over cost. Rather than maybe what you're saying is that you want a client to come to you and say, we've got $100,000 to spend.
Yeah,
I want you
exactly.
to come up with a design which you know you can do for $100,000, including all the prep and all the planning and all the project management. And now tell us, what is it going to look like? And that's when we can go, wow, that's amazing. We've got it. Or actually, no, we probably need to spend a bit more. So yeah, it's a really clever way around, isn't it? I mean, Chris, we could talk for hours on this. We're only scratching the surface of the sort of the principles behind. Well, it's not the principles just behind Refresh. It's the principles behind good project management. Which is what it's all about. But look, I mean, it's just final question though. Is there a way you can manage your renovations that just avoids wasting money?
Yeah, definitely. So what our process we use, the Refresh process, is actually exactly the same as the process that a new home company would use. And so the line on the top is sort of 5 steps. First of all, you need to have a good initial consultation. That's critical. That's often missed actually, but it's a really important step. And then you need to have a high-level plan, and that's the point where you start getting some cost information. So it's not quite as easy as saying, I've got 100 grand to spend, can you tell me what I'm going to get? There is a bit of an iterative process. So the first step is to do a high-level plan, which is a concept plan, and some kind of costing, so that you can make some trade-off decisions. Maybe it's coming out at 150 grand and you've only got 110. Yep. Well, if you've got the information, you can say, well, maybe I won't do the kitchen this year. I'll leave that till a later date. But you've got data and information to make some decisions. The next step, working drawings, you want to get down into the real nitty gritty. So it's not a sink, it's that sink I want to use. And you want detailed costings at this stage because you want to know exactly how much it is going to cost before you make a commitment. Now, in a large project, those 3 steps, it might take 9-10 months to go through that because the council takes that long to go through the consenting process. But that means you've got 9 or 10 months to get a really clear plan. And so your build becomes a relatively easy exercise. Then you build, then you finish. So that's the process that a new home company would go through. Down below that, you see there's 2 lines. There's the typical process, which is the typical renovation process, and the Refresh process, which sort of combines the typical process and we add the bits of information that are missing. So the problem with the typical process for a renovation is you do a briefing with an architect, but he's not the guy who's actually putting in the sink or doing the tiling 3 months down the track. You've never spoken to him ever. So, immediately there's a massive gap. Plus, at that stage, what you really want to know roughly how much is it going to cost? Just like you asked the garage guys, roughly am I dreaming or is it realistic? It's a really important first question. Now we can answer that because we've got thousands of case studies. We do about 1,000 projects a year. So whatever you're doing, it's a kitchen, a bathroom, or a loft, or a garage conversion, or whatever it is, we've got thousands of case studies. And in fact, those case studies are on our website. So if you see the website thing, there are thousands of case studies there you can have a look at. But that answers your first question. How much is this as a typical bathroom going to cost? Just like you asked, how much is a typical garage conversion going to cost? Everyone wants to know the answer to that. Architect wouldn't have a clue because they don't do that. They don't do the end part, which is the implementation part, but we do. And then the next step is to do the concept and feasibility. And at that point, you've got a high-level plan. And what we do is to get a professional estimator, which is called a quantity surveyor. They come in and they give you what's called a top-down estimate. So you've now got a much better budget indication of what your project's going to cost, and you can make trade-off decisions. The next step with an architect, you are going to get design drawings, but you're not going to get all that documentation, the detailed costing I talked about before. So you haven't got a project plan if you've gone through that top layer. You've just got a set of drawings. If you go through that plus the Refresh part, you've now got a project plan. Because you've got a project plan, you can do project management. Now, builders often say, well, I know I do project management. What they do is site management. So you'll see under stage 4, there are two different things. There's site management, which is where the builder's on site and he's saying, hey, Charlie, the plumber didn't turn up today. I better ring Jeff and get him round, otherwise the project's going to hold up. But that's not the same as project management, because that's just keeping the project going day to day. It's not looking at the schedules and the budgets and the documentation. So the reason project management is so important is that 2/3 of the cost of a renovation project is usually in labor. So if you're doing a bathroom and say 5,000 is in product and 10,000 is in labor, and it goes 2 weeks too long, suddenly instead of a $15,000 project, you got a $25,000 project, because there was no project management. The material is the same price; it doesn't vary, but because you haven't managed the labor, suddenly you're $10,000 over, and that's where that 30% thing comes in brands. You can't do that. You can't manage that if you haven't got a project plan.
And of course, the labor is the most expensive part of any project, so it makes complete sense logically. And then you get to your fifth is completion. Well, completion.
Well, that's right. So you want obviously the practical completion, but there's a whole lot of documentation you need. More and more these days, you want all those files and warranties and insurances so that you can get back and use them at a later date and not sell them.
And you need to get the right sort of sign-offs and the right CCCs, etc. Otherwise, you can't sell the property anyway. So,
exactly.
Chris, fabulous to talk to you. Thank you very much for giving a really good round vision of what Refresh is all about and what you guys set out to achieve. I'm delighted to see that you've gone so far with it and that it is working, has worked for so many hundreds of clients now. And it'd be good to talk to you again a wee bit more in detail about it in the future.
Very good. Thanks very much. Thanks, Rawdon.
Thank you. That's Chris Cager there, one of the founders and directors of Refresh Renovations. We've run over time a wee bit because it was really good just to be able to get across the entire process there, and we started a bit late as well. Ricky just messaged in saying, who won the last competition you put up, please? Well, if you were talking about the Cry Cut Maker, we gave that away on Friday, and that was won by Bev Ball. That was the $700 sort of smart design cutting machine. If you're talking about the veggie bags, we had 5 of these to give away. Remember, these were these amazing little self-contained systems to grow veggies in or fruit or whatever, these things won the Chelsea Flower Show Garden Product of the Year award. VeggiePod NZ has given us these. There are 5 of them. They're each worth about $40. You had to like our page and tell us when and where VeggiePod NZ was established. It was established 4 years ago in Tauranga, and the winners are Doug Ashley Miller, Judy Thomas, Hayden Jones, Jennifer Bettridge and Vanessa Morris. To the 5 of you, congratulations. Be love it if you could please send us some shots to show us how you use it and how successful it is, so that we can pass those on to VeggiePod NZ. Now, very quickly, our top 10 for today. Well, we've done this one before, but there are so many design fails. We've found another top 10, and we'll probably find another one and another one. Number 10 in the top 10 design fails for August was the creepy house. Really? That's awesome. That's not a fail. That's a win. That's success. Number 9, the spiral staircase. You'd think there was a noticeable error. Anyone got it yet? Yes. It's pretty damn obvious, isn't it? How does that happen? That is definitely a fail. Number 8. What came first? The door or the block or the pipe blocking it? Outstanding. Well done. And see, it is a pull-to door, but judging by the little handle and judging by the hinges give it away. So that's a completely useless door. And number 7, I'll bet the pipe was, by the way, was put in. It's just some people's lack of intelligence is pitiful. Number 6, we're moving to the garage. Very well done, whoever decided to build that for a car. How does that happen? Number 5. Well, this is one which you'll definitely need all-wheel drive for. Well, that's quite dangerous, I'd have thought. Number 4 in the top 10 design fails, when you've got to go cooking. Oh, my goodness me. That is just disgusting. We actually see that sort of thing quite often as well. That is certainly not code compliant. And number 3 of top 10 design fails, well, this is the open concept bedroom. I love the carpet. That's definitely got to be a 70s house, hasn't it? With the big, or at least they've got curtains around the bath if you want a little bit of privacy. And number 2 in top 10 design fails, the uneven stairs. Those are actually designed to be like that. word of advice: if you enjoy wine on a Friday night, don't buy that house because you're going to be in hospital. And the first top of the top 10 most design fails is the most stressful bathroom ever. I don't really know where to start with that one. See, somebody actually thinks that somebody has thought that is a good design, and they've done it, and they've put that in, and they've spent a lot of money on it. Anyway, there you go. Look, it's just gone 20 to 3. We've overrun a wee bit, but I'm sure you don't mind. Really good to see you all. Let's do it all again on Friday. We'll see you then. Have a safe week. Bye-bye.